Hi, everybody. We are so excited to have Sheila Walsh here with us to have this wonderful conversation. Of course, you're in San Angelo for the National Prayer Breakfast event.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. I've been to San Angelo once before, and I remember as a really beautiful place. It seems very peaceful here.
Yeah, yes, most definitely. I love that word. We call ourselves the oasis of West Texas.
Oh, I love that.
I love it too. Okay, so for those who, they may not be familiar with you or your story, let's talk a little bit about that and give us a little bit of background.
Well, even though I live in Colleyville, just north of Dallas now, I didn't start there. I was born in Scotland, on the west coast of Scotland, and lived there until I went to seminary in London when I was 19. Yeah. And then when I graduated, I joined Youth for Christ in Europe and was part of a group called Oasis. Not the big Oasis, the other one.
The other one.
The one nobody's heard of.
Yeah.
And we would travel around all the European countries doing concerts and universities and coffee clubs. And then I was invited to come to America and open for an American artist. His name was Phil Kagi. He was a brilliant singer-songwriter. And I was asked to be the opening act for him. And I really fell in love with America.
Wow, that is amazing. Yeah. People may not know that you sing. You're a singer as well.
Yeah, that's how I started out as a contemporary Christian artist.
Oh my goodness, that is amazing. So when you look back, did you ever think you would wind up here in America or doing what you were doing on this scale?
Absolutely not. In fact, the reason I went to seminary was I wanted to be a missionary in India. I had read about how hard life is for women in India. That they don't really have a voice, and that life can be very challenging. And I thought, God, that would be a great place to send me. So that's where I thought, because I thought America doesn't need anybody else. I mean, there's a church on every corner, but God redirected my steps, and I found myself here. But it's interesting. Someone was asking me just last night, how do I become somebody on television? How do I become an artist? I have never applied for a job once in my life.
Wow.
It's all been that God has just opened a door at the right time, and all I've done is say, okay, here I am.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. And that brings up something, because, we've had many conversations about this topic, is all the work it takes to get somewhere. And like you said, doors will just open, but there's a lot of things in the background and where you got to where you are that people don't even see.
That's very true. Yeah, that's very true. I think that's true in life for everyone, though. It's a million little yeses to little things, and showing up and being faithful that then opens doors to bigger things.
Yeah. And so let's talk about your faith journey, if you don't mind. We were just mentioning how the struggles are a part of our story and how we use that and how God uses us to do that, to share with other people.
Yeah. I was born into a Christian family in Scotland, which wouldn't be unusual in America, but in Scotland it was. Less than 2% of our population even go to church.
Wow.
So to have a mom and dad who loved Jesus was really a gift. But when I was 5 years old, my father had a massive brain aneurysm that changed his personality. And he went from being this wonderful, loving dad to being a very confused and angry stranger. And he was quite violent with me before he took his own life, died in a psychiatric hospital. And I think the impression that it left with me was, if your own dad, who once really loved you, could then seem to hate you, that must be possible with God too. Yeah. So even though I became a Christian when I was 11, I remember thinking, okay, I have to get this right. I'm never going to let you down. I'm never going to fail you. I'm going to be the perfect Christian if it kills me. And honestly, I almost did.
Wow. Do you mind talking about
all
that?
I when God redirected my steps and I came over to America, I had been up in Canada with Billy Graham singing at a crusade. And I got back to my apartment and there was an invitation from the 700 Club asking if I would come in and co-host with Pat Robertson for 3 days. Well, I didn't know what that was. We didn't have any Christian television in Scotland at all. So I flew in, and it was clear from day one that I needed to do a lot of homework. I mean, I was not great at all. But Pat said to me he really felt that God had shown him that I was the right one. Yeah. So for 5 years, that's what I did. I had the privilege every day of sitting beside Pat and interviewing guests and traveling around the world with CBN. But at the same time, I had never dealt with the trauma from my childhood. Sometimes we think if we just push it away, it'll disappear. but we tend to bury it alive.
Yeah.
It's still there. And one day, live on television, I fell apart. Somebody was kind enough to turn the tables on me, and instead of answering my question when I interviewed them, they said, "How are you doing?" And it was such a kind question.
Yeah.
And there was such compassion in her eyes. And I started to cry and I couldn't stop. And by that evening, I was in the locked ward of a psychiatric hospital.
Wow. And I mean, again, people may not realize, because they see you on TV and see all of the kind of the shiny things, but there's a lot going on in the background. And, that just contributed to your story. And, you had such a powerful moment in your room.
Yeah, I did. It's so fascinating. I really believe that sometimes God will take you to a prison to set you free. That's what happened with me, because the first night, I didn't get in the bed because I thought, I've done it. This is terrible. Now God's done with me. Everyone else is disappointed in me. And so I sat in the corner of the room all night. And I was put on suicide watch the first night. So I was aware of the fact that every 15 minutes someone checked on me. But I never looked up. But at 3 o'clock in the morning, the person who came into my room came all the way to where I was sitting in the corner, and he handed something to me. And it was something you'd give a child.
Yeah.
It was a little stuffed lamb. And he turned, and when he got to the door, he turned around and he said, "Sheila, the shepherd knows where to find you." And then he was gone. And it was one of the most life-changing moments in my life to think, I felt like such a disappointment. And yet the message was, the shepherd knows where to find you. And I think that's true I'm even thinking of your viewers.
Yeah.
People who think I've made one too many mistakes, I've gone too far. No, God's love is so intense that he will pursue us and find us wherever we are.
Oh my goodness, that's such a powerful message, because I feel like that is, kind of a common, I guess, mindset nowadays that, I'm not good enough, I've done too much, like you said. So what message do you have for those folks who are wrestling with that and like saying, do I even have faith anymore?
You know what I've discovered, Senora, and I think this is like my basic bottom line, whatever you are looking for in life, it might be a better job, it might be to get married, it might be to have a child, it might be, none of those things will ever fill that kind of ache that we have inside. And I used to try and make it go away. I would turn on the television and, keep my life noisy until I began to understand that's sacred space. That is a place that God has designed for himself. Yeah. And until we know him, there will always be that kind of longing inside. And one of the things I love to do, I had the privilege not so long ago of going to a maximum secure prison and talking to some of the men who are lifers. They all have toe tag sentences. But 3 of them that I spoke to have given their lives to Jesus since they ended up in prison.
Wow.
And have gone through and got their seminary degrees in prison. And they're now missionaries in their own prison.
Wow.
They'll never know freedom outside the walls, but the freedom they've found inside is amazing. So I just think we live in a culture that glamorizes success and, how many follows do you have and all that kind of stuff. None of that really matters, because my message is God loves you. He sees you. I'll often say to women at a conference, okay, I want you to imagine that a movie was made of your life.
Oh.
Everything you've ever done. Not the edited version, but a movie that's made of your life. And it was available for anyone to watch. How would that make you feel? The message of the gospel is God has seen your movie and he loves you.
Wow.
There's no distance between us and God. And sometimes the greatest prayer in the whole world is one word. It's just the name, Jesus.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, that's so powerful. And it just brings up, to me, the story of leaving the 99 to find the one, and then how we are a part of each other's story, in everyone's day-to-day lives. And we may run into a person and we smile at them and it changes their entire day. So what's your message to those who are saying, I don't have the follows, I don't have, the fame or anything like that, but they can still show up and help?
I think one of the greatest things that God does is he takes the very thing that would seem to crush us and he uses it to help other people. I mean, I remember when I was asked to speak at the first national conference on the church and mental health. And I was glad I was on the first night. I didn't want to follow anyone because they had the The Surgeon General was there, the head of the American Association of Psychiatrists, a lot of very learned people.
Yeah.
But I was on first and I said something I would never have been able to say before. I said, I am profoundly grateful for the gift of mental illness because it means I can look into the eyes of somebody else who's struggling and say, me too.
Yeah.
You're not alone. And that's what God does. I can't reach someone who's lost a child. I can't reach someone whose husband died. I haven't gone through those things. But every single person who loves watching you and loves what you do has gone through something. Mm-hmm. And to me, it's a beautiful thing that God will do with a broken life when you give him all the pieces.
Yeah, and it kind of shifts your mindset. I guess that was probably a struggle for a lot of folks, myself included, like, why are these things happening to me? But what can we make out of it? Yeah. What can God make out of it?
Yeah, and I think sometimes he's more interested in who we're becoming than what we're doing. I used to try so hard to be perfect.
Yeah.
But now I just follow Jesus because he is perfect. And I'll never get it all right, but he's made me right.
Yeah. Oh my God. And that's kind of a relief. We don't have to be perfect. We don't have the pressure. I love it. Well, Sheila, okay, you have been, far and wide, is just doing all kinds of things. Is there anything that really stands out to you as far as looking back what you're doing and how you got there and how you got here? Is there any, I'm sure there's a lot of moments, but anything that comes to your mind that really stands out and it's just totally a God moment?
Well, it's so interesting. I think that, we look for big moments in life.
Yeah.
But I've discovered that God is there at all the moments. I was even just reading before you and I sat down. I was reading the story of Jesus feeding the 5,000 on the hillside. And as they only counted men, there's got to be 8, 9, 10,000 people there with women and children. And Jesus says to one of the disciples, what do you have? Like, you need to feed these people. And they're like, if we worked for 6 months, we couldn't feed all these people. But Jesus' only question was, what do you have? And this little boy gave up his lunch. Now, if you've got women on the hillside, you've got food.
Yeah.
But he's the only one that gave what he had. And to me, there's a huge lesson in that because Jesus took the clearly not enough and he blessed it and he broke it and he fed his people. And so whether I'm in a place, like I had the privilege of singing to some of the royal family when I was in England, I've sat with women who've buried children in Africa. I've sat beside their graveside. Every single time we bring our not enough and say, Lord, under-catered one more time. And then God does what only he can do.
That is amazing. And it just made me think of another question. I'm sure you get this a lot, but people who, are seeing kind of the state of the world, and all the destruction and despair, really, what advice do you have for them, I guess, to keep going and keep seeking good?
Yeah, that's a great question with the kind of world we're living in. And also social media has become so kind of polarized. People feel comfortable behind the anonymity of a computer to put all sorts of stuff out there. So I limit how much of that I actually pay attention to. But the other thing I've discovered is, I read this by a guy that wrote it in the 4th century. He was a bishop of Milan. His name was Ambrose. And he wrote, whereas most of Scripture, most of the Bible speaks to us, the Psalms speak for us. They give us a language of prayer. And so one of my dear friends, a guy called Dr. David Jeremiah, sent me this little leather book, and it's the Psalms. I pray 3 Psalms out loud every single day. Yeah. And it's so good for your ears to hear what your eyes are reading that I would just simply, my daily prayer, God, today, give me eyes to see what I'm going to miss without you. Yeah. Give me ears to hear what's really going on. I was talking to a woman who, I thought she was going to hit me. She was furious at something I'd said on the platform. Goodness. She said, you said that God is good, and you said that God is powerful. Well, I've buried 2 sons, so explain that to me. Yeah. One of the hardest challenges in life is holding those 2 things to be true, and yet wondering why our life seemed to fall through the cracks. But what I said to her is that you get to bring everything that's true about you to the Lord. Sometimes I think we feel we have to clean ourselves up and say all the right things, but I love the fact that before he died, Jesus processed his pain in the presence of his Father in the garden. That you get to be angry, you get to be confused, you get to be all the things. But the wonderful thing is we're invited to take that to God, who will not fall off his throne at our honesty.
Yeah, I feel like he can handle it.
Yes, I really can.
Oh, okay, Sheila. So we've got to know, you've got a lot of things in the works. What's coming up next for you? What's next for Sheila Walsh?
Well, I love this new thing I'm doing. There's a free app. It's called TBN Plus, and you can download it on any of your phone. And I do a thing every day now. It's called 5 Minutes with Jesus, where I just get to share kind of a short devotional to set you up for the day. I love doing that. I love my work at TBN. I love getting to be with part of the community at Better Together. There's just something about when women get together and share their lives. And I love that there's always younger women and older women and different backgrounds. And I learn something every time we're together. I learn something from one of the other women about, I've never seen God show up like that, but that's amazing.
Yeah, that's interesting because, a lot of us look up to all of you on Better Together and we're always learning. But that's interesting that y'all actually learn stuff too.
Yeah, we talk about that every time when we break for lunch. You're like, that was amazing. I just needed to hear that.
That is awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing your time with us. Do you have any final thoughts or messages you want to tell the people of West Texas?
What would be my camera? That one there? The big one or the little one? I think I would just want to let you know that no matter who you are, that you are loved by God today. And maybe you think, well, lady, you don't know me. No, I don't, but I know him. And I know his love is perfect. And maybe you used to be really on fire for God and it kind of fell away. But it's never too late. If you have a pulse, if there's not a white chalk mark around your body, it's not too late to say, you know what, Lord? I'm all in. I have a tattoo in my wrist that simply says, yes, Lord. And that's how I try to live my life every day. Yes, Lord.
Yeah. And it does take continual yeses.
Yeah,
every day.
It does.
Every day. Well, thank you for saying yes to this interview.
Thank you.
We appreciate you being here with us.
It's lovely to talk to you.
Lovely to talk to you. All right, folks. The great Sheila Walsh.